like to open with prayer, if you want to bow your heads. Father God, we thank you so much for this day, and we thank you so much for this time together and our opportunity to come in to a workplace that allows us to honor you and to talk about you and to pray with our residents. And Father God, we lift up this meeting and just ask us to learn and to grow and to be willing to take the information and bless our residents and our families. We lift you up and give you all the praise and glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Okay, CEO update. Deb will be at one of the meetings, I'm assuming, but she just wanted to have me express her gratitude. And I say that from the director and management team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have had a great year. We want to end up with a great year, and that is truly because of all of your hard work. We've had to do some dances in every single department this year to keep it staffed. And we all do recognize that that means everybody giving a little bit to help out, and that is truly appreciated. So this year the state has asked us to train on corporate compliance and ethics. So I don't know how to make that exciting, so it really isn't. I am just starting to put the two manuals together. We do have a great corporate compliance plan and manual done, and we do have a great ethics one done. They now want it somehow combined, so this is just the very beginning stages of it. I'm basically just going to educate you on a little bit of knowledge of what they involve, but more importantly, if you found a corporate compliance issue, what should you do? Because that ultimately is the whole point of having the committees. You don't need to know how it works, you just need to know what to do if there is something that is not in line. So we're going to start with Ethics Committee. Statement of purpose. The Ethics Committee of Bethel Human Services is established for the purpose of providing consultation for staff members in difficult situations. This is not on your blue form. The blue form is last, sorry. Acting as a support for the medical and other healthcare staff. Developing, reviewing, and updating policies on ethical issues. Educating the staff, residents, and family members on ethical issues. Exploring business-related issues of the corporation. On this committee would be the CEO, the administrator, director of community services, medical director, director of nursing, chaplain, director of social services, nursing department representative, staff member at large, community services coordinator, and community services provider. Corporate compliance. Bethel Human Services is committed to conducting itself as a good organizational citizen by promoting an organizational culture that encourages a commitment to compliance with the law. As an organization, we are committed to preventing fraud, abuse, and waste while furthering our mission. This commitment extends to every aspect of our business as well as every work-related activity of our employees, contractors, and individuals with responsibility pertaining to the ordering, provision, marketing, documentation, billing, or services, and reimbursable monies by federal health care programs. The commitment further extends to the preparation of claims, reports, or other requests for reimbursement for such items or services with the statutes, regulations, and written directives of Medicare, Medicaid, and all other federal health programs. Underneath that are 7 responsibilities. We need to have a written standard code of conduct. Every new employee goes through and signs off on the code of conduct. We're going to read through some bullet points, and then your blue sheet has that on the back as well, that we covered those. You have to have a corporate compliance officer. That would be me. You need to know where she lives. She lives on the 2nd floor of the skilled nursing facility. And you also need to know 637-2171, extension 312, or just 6312. These posters are located in every department, and it's crucial that you do know that we do have a reporting process we already had one in place, and are updating it as we go. You also have to have development and implementation of regular education and training programs. So this is part of that in there. There are also audits in every single department to make sure that we aren't stealing supplies, we aren't overbilling, we aren't charting something that we're not supposed to or that does not line up with the rules and regs. We have to have the maintenance of a process to receive complaints, and I'm going to go through how do you make a complaint a little bit later, and a system to respond to those allegations, the use of audits, which I already talked about, and then investigation and of identified systematic problems. To jump back a little bit, to put the ethics back in with that, we do expect all employees to maintain the highest ethical standards. Core values, which core value would ethics line up with? Without looking.
Our mission statement?
Our mission statement, definitely, but core value of integrity. Everything that you do, integrity truly means being honest at all cost, at all expense. We always want integrity. It might get us a little bit more money if Candy decides to overbill for something, but is that being ethical and using our core values of integrity? No. And Bethel Home and Services has no time for that. We absolutely want it billed accurately and always honestly. Your involvement at Bethel Home and Services should not be used for personal gain or in conflict with the interest of Bethel Home and Services. Gifts received from residents, their families, or prizes won at business-related functions today must be reported to your department manager. Gifts valued at less than $20 may be kept and documented by managers. Gifts valued at more than $20, we do need to refuse. With the holidays coming up, lots of our families love to bless us, and I think that just shows such excellent care on your end. But if it's over $20, what you need to say is thank you so much, but I cannot receive this. It is our policy not to accept that. You're more than welcome to buy something for the whole staff, maybe pizza, bring in cookies, whatever it may be. If it is less than $20, once again, it is okay to accept it, but I would be super cautious with someone that perhaps a resident that has dementia or isn't their power of attorney, isn't their own person in accepting that, and I would always let your manager know. We have had some cases where they came back and said, where's my blanket? Where's my whatever it may be? So we want to make sure. What are some examples of inappropriate conduct? This is in your handbook. These are issues that we would also want to be looking for at corporate compliance. These also are issues that when you receive your evaluation should be talked about. If there is an issue that is in violation here, this should be talked about. Unacceptable work performance, excessive tardiness, absenteeism, that all should be tracked and noted on your evaluations, which are coming up soon. We're doing them early this year, so they will be done before December 1st this year. Falsifying employment records, and that can be punching in, punching out inappropriately, staying too long, milking the clock, coming in early when you're not approved to do that, making sure that we're paying attention to that. Falsifying company documents, care plans, MDSs, a discourtesy to a resident, client, or tenant, family members, or visitors, verbal or physical conduct that harasses, disrupts, or interferes with work performance, failure to cooperate with internal investigations, unlawful or unauthorized use, possession, transferring, or trafficking of intoxicant, illegal drugs, or controlled substances, disclosing confidential, sensitive company information, possessions of firearms or weapons on company property, gambling on company premises, insubordination, such as refusal to follow work direction or Bethel Home and Services policies and procedures, destruction or misuse of company property, misuse or manipulation of electronic data, taking property belonging to the company, employees, or residents, and negligence in performing job duties. Once again, these all line up with our core values of teamwork, respect, integrity, generosity, and learning. If you do not have a core value pin, let me know. I meant to bring some. I'm almost out. I'm ordering new ones, trying to get the words a little bit bigger. If you have any suggestions, just let me know. Standard of conduct, once again, which you'll be signing off on, basically says that you're gonna follow all federal and state regulations. There's gonna be continuous monitoring or auditing. Commitment to continuous education. Your healthcare academy or your staff training not being done by December 15th basically puts you out of line with corporate compliance. You are not following our core values and you are not following our code of conduct. So not only do you get docked in your pay, you truly are not representing us how we want to be represented, and that is to be learners, right? One of our core values. Billing for items or services not rendered or provided. Knowingly billing for inadequate or substandard care. Failure to report incidents of mistreatment, neglect, or abuse. So, how do you report this? If an employee becomes aware of any wrongdoing under the standards set forth in the corporate compliance plan, whether committed by that employee or someone else, you must report the wrongdoing to the corporate compliance committee. So I'm the corporate compliance officer. The directors are the committee. So any director, Pete, Carolyn, Zach, or myself, you could report a complaint to. You have several different ways to report this. First one is telephone. What's my extension?
312.
Okay, and where do I live?
Second floor.
Yep, at the end in the corner. Just remember, she's in the corner. Yeah, in the old one, yeah. Internal mail. So in these posters, I am going to put a couple copies of a written form where you can go through and you can write down your complaint. You can always remain anonymous. If you do not want to put your name on this, that is okay. So you would pull this out of one of these posters and put it in a manila folder, or you could slide it underneath my office door. You could put it in a folder and put it in my mailbox as well. You also can leave a voicemail, once again, with or without your name. And then once I receive that, I will start the process of investigating it. Questions on corporate compliance ethics? It's the skimming of it. So when the state walks in and says, do you have a corporate compliance officer? What are you going to say? Yes. And who is it? Yes. And you know where I live and you know how do you report it?
By form or by phone call? Email.
Yep, you can do email, yep. Do you have to give your name?
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe give me an example of what would be something that you would definitely want to report.
A resident's being abused.
Yep, and that would be abuse and neglect, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit more. Corporate compliance would be more of billing or
document carrying up
harassment, a document, falsification, lying. Think ethics, think not telling the truth, integrity, something's not out of line. I walked into resident A's room and I took $100. That's misappropriation, but that's also corporate compliance for billing. Okay, the other thing that the state is really truly wanting us to know, and I think you should be proud to know, is that we do have a QAPI program in place. And it has been in place for several years. We are now including community services into that QAPI program, so it's more of a corporate program. So they'll be reporting on it as well. So QAPI stands for Quality Assurance Performance Improvement. So we meet monthly, we go through audits, improvement plans, talk about falls, infection control, competencies, trainings, anything like that, but the whole purpose of that is to make sure that we are providing the best care for our residents, our tenants, and our clients. Okay? Okay, next we're gonna talk about resident rights. And I'm gonna turn it over to Sean.
All right, so she gives me this lovely topic of resident rights, but it is something I'm very, very passionate about. I don't think we can cover resident rights enough, but I know we get the same old spiel every year, right? So, I was trying to think of creative ways to do it without making you guys interact with a game, because I hate games. Okay? So, I'm gonna use not all of them, but several of them. I found a kind of a neat printout that was sent by an ombudsman where it talked about using an analogy. So most of us have been in healthcare for quite a while. We're familiar with the rules and the guidelines of the nursing homes. We know how the assisted living works. We know, how Helping Hands, what the expectations are. So we're familiar with it, right? Imagine the residents coming in that have never been in a situation like that, have never been in a nursing home, have never experienced assisted living. How many of you have been on an airplane? How many of you have flown once? How many of you have flown multiple times? So there's a wide range of experience compared to that airplane. So we're going to try, this is my first time presenting it this way, so please be merciful on me, but we're going to try to kind of tie that, how would it be for you to, especially for those of you who have never flown, how intimidating, how scary, how unsettling, how unknown sitting in an airplane, boarding an airplane, the whole process would be. So I'm going to try to kind of, parts of it are, for sure. So that's what we're going to try to look at. So I'm going to go through each of the resident rights. I'll try to be timely, but try to kind of pull a couple analogies with that. So the rights. So everyone has the right for communication, to make and receive calls, letters, mail, and they have the right to do it privately. So think about being at the airport, think about being in line, think about sitting on the plane. Do you have much privacy? Anything you ask that stewardess, other people kind of hear you say. Anything she says to you, they overhear, right? So think about how that feels and how our residents are in those similar situations. Confidentiality, they have the right for confidentiality of health and personal information. Again, on a plane, in the lines, you don't have much confidentiality. People can overhear everything that's said, and we really need to be mindful about finding a private place to discuss things. How often do we catch a staff and we're like, Maynard hasn't had a BM for 3 days, I gave him 3 cups of power pudding, he still hasn't gone. And then the next shift saying, guess what, he blew up all over the place, right? We talk like that because it's part of what we do. But we need to be mindful, that is not what we should be doing as caregivers. We want somebody discussing things like that about us. Freedom from mistreatment. They have the right to be free from physical, sexual, and mental abuse and neglect, financial exploitation, and misappropriation. I don't think any of us have experienced it, but we've seen on the news where at an airport, if somebody steps out of line, if somebody says something, if somebody does something suspicious, do they mess around? No. They grab them, they cuff them, they rough them up, they do what they need to do, and does the person have much chance to defend themselves? Not until they're off that plane and they're on the ground, right? So just like they should have a right to get a little upset on a plane and speak their mind, our residents should have a right to be their individual selves and not have to be free or to be concerned about abuse. I think we all need to be extra mindful of our coworkers and working alongside of people. I think the reality is psychological abuse and mental abuse happens a lot more in these settings than we acknowledge. Especially, there's vulnerability in every area, but you think about Helping Hands. I'm not saying that they do that, but there's potential. They're in somebody's individual homes. In the assisted living facilities, there may be 1 or 2 staff on. So we need to be mindful, and if you have a coworker that's really intimidating to you, it makes you feel afraid to ask questions, or makes you feel afraid to say, I don't know, or I forgot this, they're probably intimidating to the residents too. So we need to be mindful of that. And to be mindful of threats of taking away things, or, you know, jokingly saying, if you don't do this, I'm not gonna do this for you. Maybe you don't need that soda at 8 o'clock if you can't do this for me now, right? That whole parenting approach, that's not our jobs. We don't get to discern what we take away and what we give people. That's not the business we're in. So just to be mindful of that and be paying attention to that, because I think it happens a lot more than we know. Freedom from restraints, to be free of chemical and physical restraints. That takes a lot of creativity, right? Because sometimes we think it's ridiculous, the hoops we have to jump through to try to keep somebody safe, or, you know, to not give that PRN lorazepam when somebody's really agitated and we have to do A, B, C before we can even think of giving it. But that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do, and everybody has that right to be free from that. Prompt and adequate treatment, receive correct treatment in a timely manner. That relates to the airport, right? You're waiting in line for hours, several delays in rerouting, and you're completely dependent on the stewardess for pretty much everything, right? You're sitting in your seat and you don't get anything until they bring it to you. You know, waiting for the bathroom to be free on a plane, right? And then having to go in right after somebody else has been in there, which sometimes is not pleasant. Think about how many times a day our residents wait for somebody. Even if we're a great CNA that's fast and efficient and we're working hard, think how many times they have to wait. They probably have to wait for us to help them get ready in the morning. They probably have to wait for pills, wait for a snack, wait to go to the bathroom. So think about that, and how can we give them prompt and adequate treatment? And then also be mindful and be proactive when you're assessing that person. When you see their skin and you see a spot that may start to look like a sore. You know, if there's a general decline in somebody's ability, report that soon. Let's talk about that. Let's have that open dialogue instead of, you know, we've all been in that situation, unfortunately, where something comes up, somebody has a skin ulcer, or somebody has lost 8 pounds in a week or something, and, you know, you talk about it and you have 3 staff that say, well, I knew that. I knew that last week, I saw it and it was looking rough. You know, let's be proactive, let's report that, and let's make sure we're giving that prompt and adequate treatment. That they have a choice of their treatment options, to participate and be fully informed of planning and care treatment options, and the right to refuse care. The right to tell us, I don't want my shower this morning, right? So then our job is to figure out, can we do it later? Or can we reapproach in 10 minutes with maybe a different attitude, and maybe they'll be okay to have their shower. But that is their right to refuse that. Self-determination, making decisions relating to care activities, daily routine, and other aspects of their life. And enhancing self-reliance, autonomy, and decision-making. You think about on an airplane, you don't have much of that, right? You have to sit where you have to sit, unless you pay for the window seat. But you have to sit next to the person that's next to you. There's just not a lot of options as far as that goes. Self-determination, we already did that one, sorry. Recording, filming, and photos, we talk about that all the time. I just want to remind everybody that any social media posts, including Facebook, Snapchat, anything like that, even if it comes from a positive thought or idea, are absolutely not acceptable and will most likely lead to termination and reports to DHS, and you probably end up on the caregiver misconduct registry. So just be mindful of that. I've read way too many articles about people with great intentions and great hearts that really made a bad choice and snapped that picture and shared it. So be mindful of that. Safe environment, they have a right to live in an environment where residents are free from environmental hazards. Is safety ever more important than when you're sitting on an airplane flying above the clouds, right? You're completely depending on those people to make sure that that plane is ready to go, that all the safety checks have been done. Same as the people living in our services. They're trusting that we're checking the water temperature so they don't get burned. They're trusting us to make sure the fridge temps are right, and that the fire drills are done, and all of those types of things. Physical and emotional privacy. They have a right to receive privacy in treatment, living arrangements, and caring for personal needs. Again, you know, not to be discussing resident behaviors, inappropriate things that maybe residents, folks with dementia may do, things that are really bizarre, and you know, to be mindful of how you're discussing that and sharing information that's necessary, not just sharing information to be sharing information, but to really be mindful of that. I can't imagine how that would feel to walk down the hall and hear staff laughing about something that your loved one did. I think about my dad, who's a really prideful, strong man, and if he ever needs care, how I would feel to walk around the corner and find somebody smirking and laughing about maybe something that he had done, or, you know, yeah. So just to be mindful of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Present grievances. They have the right to make complaints to facility staff, public officials, and any other person without fear of retaliation. So I was thinking about this. When you're sitting on that plane and you know that there's security guards and they can do all that kind of stuff, do you complain much? You think many people really get hostile on the plane? When do you think that usually happens?
When they've been drinking.
Sure, but probably most people save a lot. From experience over here. Yeah, right, when you land, when you get off that plane, right, because you're on the ground, you know, then you can really start letting things rip. And I think sometimes that happens with our residents is in regards to, they're in a new place, they're unsure of things, so when they get around their families or maybe case managers, that's when they feel the freedom to start venting. Because sometimes we feel like, why didn't they tell me that? I didn't know that. I could have done something if I would have known that. But I think it's that comfort level, and I think it's so important that we work hard to build that comfort level with every one of our residents we support, so that they'll come to us about the little things, so that in the facility they have at least one person that they can come to and know, if I tell her they're gonna help me, it's gonna be okay. Because imagine if you had an issue with somebody and there's 2 people in the facility that night and one of those people is somebody you have an issue with, you're gonna be kind of nervous about reporting something about them because we're not supposed to retaliate, but it happens. So to be mindful and to have those relationships with those folks we support, and to remember, everybody has a life story. The more we can find out about the folks we support, the better job we can do is knowing where they're coming from. All behaviors, all reactions stem from something, and unfortunately, most of the time it's communication. So communicate, find out those stories, figure out what you can do. Be fully informed of the facility charges and fees. You guys aren't as much a part of that as more management is, but nothing worse than having extra ticket surcharges and bag check fees and things you didn't know about when you're on that trip. Be treated with dignity and respect, to receive full recognition of residents' dignity and individuality. And guys, if we do that one, and we do that one well, that takes care of really all the other resident rights. Because if we're truly looking at that individual from dignity and respect factor, then we care about every other one of the rights, right? And we're naturally gonna try to help them with that. Receive medication, that's one of the most important things we do. They have a right to receive medication on time and is ordered. You know, at Bethel Oaks, we have buddy checks and we have things like that that seem ridiculous, but it's a second safeguard for not only the residents, but for staff to make sure that those medications are being given accurately. They have a right to manage their own financial affairs. They can either manage their own if they're appropriate, or they have a right to be involved in who they get to delegate that responsibility to. They have a right to live in the least restrictive environment, to have the fewest restrictions necessary to promote and meet the needs of the residents' admission, and does not restrict the residents' freedom of choice. Think about the freedoms they lose by coming into our facilities. They lose a lot of freedoms. We must advocate and give them a few choices, and I'm sure you've found, as I have, with the most challenging resident, if you give them a few choices that they don't expect, if you let them make some decisions that they're expecting they're not gonna get to make, they usually become pretty agreeable to a lot of things. So give people choices, surprise them with things they don't expect. And power and control equates to restrictions. If we're trying to parent them and if we're harboring this control and power and control with our residents, it doesn't end well. You know, I often use the analogy, we have the keys to almost everything in this resident's life that they used to independently access. Pretty soon they have to ask us for a snack, they have to ask us for a pop, when to go to the bathroom, if I get my shower, if somebody has time to wash my hair, you know, if I get to put lotion on or not. All those things that we just jump up and do every single day. So we need to find ways to give them back some of that power and control. They have the right to freedom from seclusion, to be free from isolation and separation. We need to figure out what peers they get along with and try to support that. And if they don't get along with any peers, we need to be that support for them. And freedom from labor. Can't force them to complete any cleaning tasks unless it's in their ISP. So as you all know, you've heard it several times, we're all mandated reporters. It's our expectation to report. We don't have to know that abuse and neglect happens. We have to just report a concern. And whoever you report it to, will take it from there. I can't stress enough to report it as soon as possible. Don't discuss it with your coworkers, don't discuss it, do you think I should? I wonder if you have that gut feeling something's not right, don't disclose it with anybody else, go to your supervisor, let them know, and the sooner the better, and not just for the residents, it's as much for the staff's safety and protection as it is the resident, because if somebody's setting you up or there's a situation with a resident that's really difficult, we want to protect you as well. We don't want to leave you in a situation that maybe could be putting you in a really difficult situation. So report it as soon as possible. It makes the investigation process much easier for us when we're doing that investigation because our timeline is much shorter. So please be mindful of that. So that's resident rights in a nutshell. Thank you.
That was excellent. I love that, and it helps you remember the airplane analogy. Thank you. That's wonderful. So I'm going to take it just a step further with abuse, neglect, and misappropriation. She kind of segued into that. What is abuse? What's the key word for some of you new orientees that I always highlight? Help me. Most of you have been here quite a while. Intention. Always think about willful. Was it willful? So if I'm taking a resident to the bathroom, the care plan says that it has to have a gate belt. You have the gate belt on, you're doing everything appropriately. The resident falls and breaks a hip. Is that abuse? No. So it's the willful act of walking up and kicking somebody, pinching them, whatever. And there's several different types of abuse. So it can be physical, which is hitting, slapping, pinching, kicking. It can be sexual abuse, harassment, inappropriate touching, assault, verbal abuse, threats of harm, saying things to intentionally frighten the resident. Sean talked a little bit about that. Oh, I guess you're not going to get your pop at 8 o'clock if you don't get up and get your shower taken. Not okay. That could be very frightening and inappropriate. And emotional abuse. And I do think that sometimes we do humiliate and not necessarily harass, but try to intimidate with threats of, not necessarily punishment, but if you don't do this, you're not going to get that. Depriving or not, you can't have, your whatever it is that is important to you until you listen to me. I think it's truly important that we're paying attention to what we're doing on that and not making all those bargaining deals. Somebody give me an example of abuse.
Slapping somebody.
Yeah. Well, it would be one that might be a little bit harder to recognize. Obviously, if I walk up and I kick Deidre, that's abuse. Sorry, I'm ignoring somebody. Ignoring somebody, yeah. Or, what's that? Not performing a care would go more under neglect, but it still is in that
Intentionally
realm.
leaving them in their room, not taking them to meals.
Yep, and once again, a little bit more neglect-based, but still falls under that. So neglect, once again, is also, think of intention. So I have 5 call lights on. Greta is one of my residents. I assess that she wants to make a phone call. But over here I have Sarah, my other resident with the call light on, that is sliding out of bed and has to go to the bathroom. So I've determined that I'm going to go help Sarah because she's at a risk for a fall, and Greta seems content waiting to call her family. Candy comes around the corner and she sees that Greta has a call light on. She doesn't know where I'm at. Can she report me for neglect because I'm not answering her call light?
She can report you, but
She
that
can,
doesn't mean it's.
But it's not.
Just be investigated.
Because I've made a decision out of all my call lights on, this one is the most important right now. This one is going to keep this resident safe. Not that I'm not gonna get to Greta, but I have to decide. Or Vicky comes on shift, Vicky, hey, could you go help Greta? She wants to call her family member. And tag teaming it. But neglect truly would be if I say to Greta, you know what? This phone call that you wanna make isn't happening because you wouldn't take your medicine for me this morning. That would be neglect, that would be abuse, that would be inappropriate. So really thinking about those things. How about Greta's been on that call light all day? It's 1:45 and I have had it. If she hits that call light one more time, she's gonna sit and wait for Marie to come on duty and Marie can take care of Greta. Is that okay?
She's on her own.
Not okay. And we all have those tenants, residents that are on that call light all the time. How about if I walk in, I don't greet Greta, turn the call light off, walk out. Not okay, not okay. Knocking, hi Greta, it's Jeannie. Doesn't matter if I was just in here. It's me again. Nope, not gonna say that. Hi Greta, what can I get for you? It's Jeannie. Oh, you want another glass of water? Certainly, let me get that for you. But I think remembering to assess the needs of all the lights on is really important too, because if I go help Greta with a phone call while Sarah's falling out of bed, that's probably, need to switch that up and make those decisions. And you have to make those on the, fly, that's pretty easy. So not using a gate belt, not following that care plan, that is neglect. If you know that gate belt's supposed to be on and you're supposed to be walking with them, wherever they go, you better have that gate belt on or that is neglect. Failure to perform range of motion exercises, turning off a call light, leaving a resident wet or soiled. If you know they are wet or soiled and you are not attending to that, that is neglect. Now once again, let's say Sarah's falling out of bed, but Greta's wet. I'm gonna let Greta sit a couple more minutes and go get Sarah. That doesn't mean I'm being neglectful, help me to Greta. It just means I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there, but it might take me a little bit long. Failure to give the medication, and Sean talked about that as well. If we have a PRN medication that can help, that is great. On the flip side of that, constantly just keep giving them the meds. That's not okay either. We need to make sure that we're thinking about that. Misappropriation, we really talked about that. So let's say that Greta is our new resident, and every time a new CNA comes in, she says, hey, I've got a piece of chocolate for you. And she's like, here, you can have a piece of chocolate. Thank you, Greta, that's wonderful. That is not what we're talking about. That is not misappropriation. But I have to work tonight, and I forgot my lunch, and I'm starving. So when Greta's at dinner, I'm going to go into her room, and I'm going to take her bag of chocolate. That would be stealing. So those little tiny blessings that they love to give us, that's okay. Little pieces of chocolate, but to go in and steal the whole bag would not be. I also would encourage you not to be talking about your personal life in front of the residents. Oh, my car broke down today, Greta. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have any money. I can't fix it. What that causes is that resident to want to help you, and they worry about you because you are their family. And so then they're trying to figure out a way to get you that money and get you that help. That is not okay. That would be misappropriation. So you always want to say, oh, I'm okay. Everything's good. How are you? And work through it with them that way. Jewelry, anything family heirloom. We did have that happen where a resident did give a nice blanket to a staff member, and then a month later accused them of stealing it because they have dementia and forgot that they gave it to them. So even if it's a nice blanket that you're sure doesn't cost more than $20, I would say, oh my goodness, what a blessing, but you know what, I think you should keep that a little bit longer. Maybe later you can give that to me. Whatever it takes to not hurt their feelings, but yet help them to understand that they need to keep that. Questions on any of that? Okay, I need a runner. Anybody want to run? Lynn, you want to run? Not really? Okay. So, have you been listening? Don't look at your name tag. Raise your hand. What does QAPI stand for?
What does what stand for?
QAPI.
Oh, fuck.
Bobby? Come on, you can do it.
Quality, assurance, process improvement.
Yes,
Progress.
we'll take it. Performance improvement. Yay! Okay, raise your hand. How often does Quappy meet? Ooh, thank you. You have a hand. Okay, hand. Where is the corporate compliance officer's office located? Wendy.
Second floor.
Yes. In what building? In the corner, in what building? Bethel Home. Says a lot about that corporate compliance. How soon should you report suspected abuse, neglect, or misappropriation? Jenny?
As soon as possible.
Right now, immediately. Let's get her done. We are here to protect the residents. Name one core value. Tyler.
Integrity.
Integrity. Name another one.
Respect.
Respect. Name another one. No peeking. Delia.
Learning.
Learning. We got 3. 2 more. One starts with a T. Sarah.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. Sarah.
Attendance.
No. No. That's important. It's important. Oh.
Generosity.
Yes. Very good. I couldn't even remember what it was. Yay. Good job. Give me an example of one of our core values. Whatever one you want. Tyler.
Integrity, being honest.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Give me an example of a resident right.
Right, their medication.
Awesome.
Good job, Ally.
When is it okay to accept a gift from a resident client tenant?
When it's under $20.
Very good. And what else do you need to do?
Raise your hand.
This is a tough one. This one, if you answer this one right, I'll give you 2 candy bars. Define customer service.
You guys do it all the time, word for word.
No, well, it's your answer. I didn't give you a definition. Go for it,
Meeting your
Bob.
customers' needs.
Meeting your customers' needs. Okay, 2. Anybody add to that? In a timely manner.
With integrity.
With integrity. Anything else? And respect, yes, all of your core values need to be in there. Because they might wanna say, I'm going home right now. So Bobby, are you gonna take them home right now?
No.
Right? Right. So sometimes we can't necessarily meet their need the way they want us to meet their need, but it is making sure that we get as close to that need as possible. I can't take you home right now, but how about we sit down and have some breakfast?
Well,
How
their
about
need
we-
could be to stay here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, or convincing them of that
Yeah.
need, which a lot of times doesn't work. Give me an example of poor customer service. Vicki?
Not answering the call.
Yes, exactly. How about this one? This would be my pet peeve. So here's the nurses station and here's all my RAs working. I'm a visitor.
They just keep letting.
Yep, I've been standing here how long? I'm so uncomfortable. I just checked my loved one in and I've never been in a nursing home before and nobody is greeting me. Right? Nobody's saying, can I help you? Everybody's too busy talking about their date last night or whatever. Resident rights hasn't had this for whatever. Oh, please, as soon as you see a resident, a resident's family, a visitor, or a coworker, if Terry comes over to the nursing home, she should be greeted as a customer. If Candy comes over to Oaks, she should be greeted as a customer. What can we do for you, Candy? How can we help you? Doesn't matter. We're all customers to each other. No matter where you're going, you should be greeted and asked, how can I help you? Truly, truly important. Okay, to the blue sheet. And then we're done. How am I doing on time? Good, okay. Oh, not quite done. Okay, So we're gonna go around the room, everybody's gonna read one, Greta, start.
The code of conduct applies to all types of.
Interactions?
Oh, I didn't know if I needed to.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes. If you don't wanna read too, you can just say skip.
The code of conduct applies to all types of interactions, including those that are face-to-face, electronic, and written, including social media.
It is the goal of Bethel Home and Services to provide quality care in our communities for people who will benefit from health and residential services for the aging, guided by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Extra credit, what is that statement?
Mission statement.
Thank you.
Good job, Marilyn.
Okay, next.
It is the goal of Bethel Home and Services to provide a quality work environment for people to serve the aging, guided by the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Everyone is expected to adhere to the core values of teamwork, respect, integrity, generosity, and learning.
Attitude. My responsibility is to serve all of our residents, clients, tenants by providing quality service with care and courtesy. I know that my customers are the residents, clients, tenants, their family members, the Bethel Home and Services staff, volunteers, the public, services we have daily contact with, and my peers.
Personal appearance. I will present myself in a professional manner, always welcoming and greeting resident, clients, tenants, visitors, and employees with eye contact and a smile. I will follow the department's dress code policy and wear my name tag at all times.
Communication. I will communicate with others in a positive manner, verbally, written, and through electronic communication. I will be responsive in all workplace interactions, actively listening to my customers, whether they're my residents, clients, tenants, family members, or other members of the workforce. I will smile and be aware of my body language and nonverbal communication. I will express disagreements tactfully and respectfully with an open mind, ready to learn and grow. I will respect the ideas, values, traditions of others. I will maintain calm composure under stress or pressure. I suck at that.
Very important. Communication is very important. Do not let something build up to the point that you blow. If you don't know who to go to, you go to me and you say, help me. I'm getting to the point where I don't want to come to work, or I'm getting to the work point where I'm doing this. Come to me and we'll work through it together. But you must communicate. If your face doesn't tell your customer that you love your job, you need to change your face. Because if I walk up and I say, yeah, what do you need? Do you think I love my job? Do you think I love my residents? No. Oh, I love my job. Yeah, great. I've been down there 20 times. How many more times do I have to go down there? No, or that employee does nothing. I have gotten up everybody this morning and that person does nothing. Should I say that out on the floor?
No.
Nope. You should go to your supervisor or you should come to me. Say help, help. Okay, next. Greta's, yeah, Terry, you wanna take it?
Safety culture. I understand the commitment of the organization to a culture of safety and open communication. I will be responsible for reporting any issue to the proper person. If there is ever an occasion when I feel I have been made to feel uncomfortable for reporting, I will bring this to the attention of my supervisor or the director of human resources. Everyone has the responsibility to maintain a workplace free from all forms of disrespectful behavior.
Diane?
Commitments to residents, clients, tenants. I will acknowledge residents, clients, tenants' questions and concerns immediately. I will always address residents, clients, tenants with respect and dignity while making their needs first priority. I will provide a pleasant environment to promote healing, keeping a holistic perspective. I will provide continuity of care by reporting to coworkers before change of shift.
Angie? Your turn. Oh,
Go ahead, Bobby.
Bobby?
I pass.
You pass. Yep, Angie. Okay.
Okay, I passed.
Okay. Lori? It's a long one.
What part is it?
Commitment to workers.
Commitment to coworkers.
You want me to do that one?
Yes.
I will welcome all newcomers to make their adjustment. Did you hear what I said? I will welcome all newcomers. Remember how awful it is to be the newcomer. To not know that I should fill up the salt and pepper shakers. It's obvious to you, but it's not obvious to me. Welcome the newcomers and help them. Remembering that I was once in their shoes. I will celebrate their talents and support the talents less refined. I will demonstrate a strong work ethic by showing that I care about myself, my job, and my coworkers by being on time and lending a helping hand whenever possible. I will treat my coworkers as professionals, deserving courtesy, honesty, respect, and cooperation in the same manner as I would expect to be treated. I will respond to pages, call lights, and phone calls in a timely and professional manner.
Privacy. I am committed to the protection of my fellow employees as well as the residents, clients, tenants' rights to personal and informational privacy. I fully understand that I have a responsibility to ensure that all communications and records, inclusive of demographic, clinical, and financial information, is treated and maintained as confidential. I will do this in Bethel Home and Services as well as in the community. I am committed to the value of providing care and communication in an environment that respects privacy. I will be considerate in all interactions and in the provision of care at all times and under all circumstances with the highest regard for a person's personal privacy and dignity.
Hallway etiquette. Courtesy and professionalism will be extended to residents, clients, tenants, visitors, and each other in the hallways and will be a top priority for the employees of Bethel Home and Services. I make eye contact, smile, and say hello to visitors, residents, clients, tenants, and coworkers. I will treat the hallways as the hallways of the residents, clients, tenants' home. I'll never be too busy to help someone or ask whether help is needed.
Safety awareness. I will complete all yearly mandatory training as required by the Bethel Home and Services. I have a personal responsibility to be familiar with and follow the safety policies and procedures. If I observe any unsafe conditions or safety hazard, I will correct it if possible or report it immediately.
Amanda?
Sense of ownership. I will accept all the rights and responsibilities of being part of the Bethel Home and Services team by living the facility's philosophy, vision, and core values of respect, integrity, teamwork, generosity, and learning. I am an example to others, and I will be a leader in providing excellent customer service both in the facility and the community. I will hold the people and property of the facility in high regard.
Pass.